I think that defending is now become quite consistent. Most teams defend very, very well. Expectations now for players are more and more, they want players that play 200 feet. And so the game now is becoming more difficult to score because the defensive play is so much better. It's so much closer. And it's making scoring goals a challenge. That's why we have to activate the D. You have to also allow your top offensive players to take more risks sometimes. And obviously, every zone out from your own net, you can play more aggressively. You can have more risk to your game. In your defensive zone, no risk. Neutral zone, not too much. In the offensive zone, you got to encourage some risk if you want to score. So that's a chapter in my book called You Defend to Attack.
Have you got time for a question or two?
Oh, sure, Wall.
Okay. Great stuff, Dave. I always think back to our day and how we had to defend our end. And it wasn't until I actually became a coach, as opposed to just a skills coach, with the national women, that I sort of took the responsibility of defensive play, particularly in our zone. And I sort of think of this as the evolution of the game. It relates to your presentation, but I came up with this coaching the Japanese women playing superior teams. You had me coach in the Olympics. It was thanks to you, I got that opportunity. Team Japan playing USA, and Canada was a challenge. So basically, I used the concept of penalty kill with 5.
Yes.
And it created frustration. We were able to sustain leads, and it was effective. Mm-hmm. But when I got the national women's team playing the U.S., that's not the way to play. You got to play them, I think, up front or ahead of them, and really pressure. Mm-hmm. But learning to read and react. My role with the women's team in terms of scouting and development after 2002 was to educate the programs of excellence in every province so that they understood what you had taught, what I had learned, and what I learned from the women's experience. So I introduced a simple progression for D-zone cover, and it's literally man on, box behind.
Yep.
The difference between that and box +1 is really important.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have a man on, you have no defense. And the essence of getting that pressure. And it morphed into man on with the first player, stick on with the second, halfway with the third, which was your rule.
Yeah.
And of course, we sagged.
Yeah.
Definitely down. And whether you take the point away or whether you play inside, outside wall, those things, are the debate. So I today in the term that's been used is swarm.
Yes.
If they have 1, you have 2. If they have 2, you have 3. If they have 3, you have 4. And I see that fairly common. If I'm sure you've heard of that term, and I wonder how you regard that. It's sort of like less reading and reacting. Mm-hmm. You're not sitting back and swinging your head so much as you are outnumbering them quickly when they're stopped. Can you comment on that?
In defensive zone coverage, the key is to stop the puck. If you can get it even minimized into a small area, that allows the man checking the puck carrier to get close and real close. And then what happens is players off the puck can shrink that area and cut off passing lanes. And some people call it swarm, some call it shrink, but it just means to compress an area. But it's all based upon, can I stop the puck carrier? And the second thing is, do I have him facing the glass? Because if I've got him facing the glass, then you can really shrink the zone quickly, really give their offensive team difficulty finding passing lanes and passing options. But so one of the keys in defensive coverage is, once you close and stay close, can you get the person with the puck in a puck protection mode where they're facing the glass? If you can achieve that, that's what you can do. And I can remember watching your Japanese ladies play, Wally, and that was something they did pretty well, was to get the puck carrier facing the glass, or at least stick on puck. They made plays inside difficult to achieve, and you have to do those kind of things when you're coaching a team that's outmatched like you were. But coverage now has changed quite a bit. We get long cycles now that last sometimes 35, 40 seconds because of the larger zones, and zero tolerance, no clutching and grabbing, two referee system. All those things have made D zone coverage a little less aggressive, and it gives an advantage to the offense. And that's why we get these long shifts. And all we do is much like you were doing, Wally, teams kind of sag inside. When they're tired, protect the inside. If it goes to the point, at one time the forwards were asked to occasionally block shots. Now it's guaranteed. You got to get in the shot lane. That's not a nice to do thing. It's a necessary thing. So D zone coverage has changed quite a bit.
How would you defend? Because back in our day, that's all we really had to focus on. But how would you defend today's offense? And the debate is, do you play five-man, man-on-man? Because the offense looks like it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the interchange of D and forwards. But how would you defend more effectively today? What would you suggest?
Well, it's really interesting because when you get 5 men active and you get, say, a forward cycling high and a D from the point going down low, do you want to end up defensively with a D man at the point and your forward playing the net front? Some teams don't mind that, but you're not usually in the most comfortable position. Defensemen tend to play well in front of the net. They don't really very often cover a guy who stops at the point. So a lot of teams have gone a lot more. At one time, when teams started the cycle, the D who jumped that man or the forward who jumped that man would, first of all, get close and quick right away. Try to keep the puck carrier's eyes down. Then you had to make some choices at the top of the circles. Would the man stay with this fellow if the D came down, or would they switch? And some teams still play a switch, Wally, and play some combination of man-to-man and zone defense. Teams in Russia who play this so much now with the bigger zones, the wider rink, they play man-to-man. They're prepared to have a defenseman follow a guy right up to the blue line. So really, it's your choice. We're seeing more and more now, though. A lot of times it's 3 players kind of man-to-man, and the other 2 players playing more zonal coverage. So it's a combination of man-to-man and zonal coverage that make it work.
Back in the day when I was involved with the women and coming into the women's game with the experience of working with you and the national team, and the idea of playing in a small rink, I always advocated, no, the D doesn't want to run out at the point.
Yeah.
And with the women particularly, because we didn't want to take them that far up the ice, being taken out of important spaces. So the rule that I applied with them was finish the check F1 or D1, man on the puck carrier. The most important part is that man on.
Yep.
As soon as it changes, there's another man on.
Mm-hmm.
But finish the check before the hash mark.
Yes.
That was sort of a rule of thumb that I wrote into it, and it worked for us, in that time period. But there's no longer the transition from small to big ice, but maybe there is. When you look at world championships today, are they playing them in big ice or small ice? And it makes coaching more fun, more challenging, but you really have to be tuned into everything you're talking about here. So,
and Wally, that's a good rule you had there, because if you can finish your check and get that guy close to the boards, that player close to the boards, stopped, it's one-on-one, so everybody else can read off that. It's when the guy has got separation and you can't close on him and get him close to the boards and actually pin him or hold him temporarily there. That's when coverage gets difficult. And now the D come in inside, we call it slip and slide, or they come down behind the puck carrier along the boards. We call it a high roller. Plays like that are so difficult to defend. Number one thing is, if you communicate, you do sort it out. So if you choose to play man to man, as long as you communicate, I got him, I got puck, the other guy knows, things work out. It's when you don't communicate that sometimes you have issues. And like you did, a lot of teams have little rules like that that help to sort out the coverage. And that's really smart coaching.